fly in the wall aspect of the book to me when you started it off, I'm it's strange. I always see him, I'm up here and I'm looking at him as you're describing this guy, this quiet drummer who's not dropping names, but as I think, I don't know, I forget who you were saying. He said, "Oh, that's me playing on one of the tracks." He had heard it on the radio on one of the guys from Blue Monkeys. And the fact that
Yeah.
out of nowhere he says, "Well, I got to go. I got to go to the doctor," and he's never seen again. And then the incident happens. And how did you see him when you were describing him? Who was that guy that you were describing near the end with the Blue Monkeys?
Yeah, that opening scene is powerful in my mind too, John. It's there's some of the genesis of my interest in this came from that. Because I knew Rolly Sally in the Chris Isaac band real well. He was a good friend, and he told me long ago about playing with Jim Gordon, and I found that so interesting that Jim Gordon was in this dump band that because he couldn't manage himself. And yeah, Rolly was sweet. Rolly sent him a bathrobe when he was in jail. You don't get to wear bathrobes in jail.
Oh my God. Jeff Skunk Baxter told me, it might have been the first time I talked to him might have been about 6 months before Jim died. And he said, well, I should visit him. And the second time was just a few weeks after he died. And I said, you weren't going to visit him. I mean, you know that. I don't have to tell you anything, right? He says, oh, yeah. And then I was watching one of your interviews earlier with another guy named John, the drummer, and you had said that you sent Jim Gordon some books, and I mean, he obviously got them, but he was not the type of guy that was going to reach out to you.
He didn't like visitors.
Yeah.
He didn't want them. I don't want to say he was happy or comfortable, but Jim accepted imprisonment as his life. He didn't play drums in prison. And he'd sit in with the prison band every so often because everybody knew who he was, but he wasn't regularly on the drums. He didn't want to play drums. He didn't want to think about that part of his life. He was heavily medicated. He was, still very ill. And I think he avoided all his parole hearings. Um, so I think Jim embraced prison as the solution for his problems. And there's a number of people who told me, that they tried to make arrangements to visit him and that he would cancel at the last minute. This also, by the way, is kind of typical of late stage schizophrenics. I mean, schizophrenics have huge problems bonding with people. It was really difficult for Jim to be a father or to be in a romantic relationship. And all the studio musicians that worked by his side, they didn't have any real personal knowledge of him. They knew him as a musician and a guy with a smile. But I'm talking to Dean Parks, 100 sessions or more with Jim, and he didn't know whether Jim was married or had kids, or they'd never had a lunch together or a drink after the sessions. But that's schizophrenics for you. They do not bond. And as they get older, they get more and more, in interior life and withdrawn. So that's what people describe Jim on the Yard as is remote, by himself, not on the yard a lot. Most of his time spent in his cell. This is it's heartbreaking stuff. It really is.